Sang-ah returned home feeling nauseous and disgusted. She confided in her husband about her fear of losing her fame. Tae-seop comforted his wife, saying that he always admired her because she feared failure more than anything. Conversely, Sang-ah also confessed that she loved Tae-seop because of his immense ambition. Perhaps that ambition is what binds them together. Meanwhile, Tae-seop hired Detective Jung-won to monitor Mayor Nam's every move. Tae-seop had evidence of Mayor Nam's secret meetings. He decided to catch Mayor Nam red-handed accepting bribes or engaging in sexual transactions at a hotel. Tae-seop's goal was to bring down both Mayor Nam and Director Lee. To gain strong support, Tae-seop sought out Jung-wook. He is one of the twin heirs of the Gaia Group. At his sights on Jun-sung. Although Sang-ah's career is in a terrible state, she hasn't lost her conscience. Sang-ah orders the company director that he absolutely must not allow Jun-sung to participate in those dirty deals. However, the director secretly betrays Sang-ah. He secretly takes Jun-sung to a hotel to serve VIP clients. When Sang-ah discovers this, the director tries to justify himself. He said the company was heavily in debt and Director Lee had threatened to withdraw the investment. The most heartbreaking thing was that even Jun-sung had agreed to do something wrong because he longed to play the lead role in the new film. Sang-ah was almost driven mad by this. She quickly rushed to the hotel to save Jung-sung. At the hotel, Director Lee was personally receiving Mayor Nam. She was completely unaware that she had fallen into Tae-seop's sights. Meanwhile, Jung-won's team worked very professionally. They quickly obtained the hotel director's fingerprints and stole the key card for the penthouse on the 17th floor. Tae-seop quickly received the equipment, including the room key and a headset, to begin his work. Just then, Sang-ah appeared at the back entrance of the hotel. Sang-ah's face was extremely tense, and this scene was coincidentally witnessed by Jung-won. When Tae-seop heard that his wife was also present in this complicated situation, he lost his composure slightly. Sang-ah trembled as she walked down the 17th floor hallway. This place held horrific memories that Sang-ah always wanted to bury. When Sang-ah saw Jun-sung standing at the threshold of sin, she felt like she was seeing a reflection of her past self. Her throat felt constricted. Sang-ah could only use her eyes to plead with Jun-sung to give up, but Jun-sung was blinded by fame. He accepted doing something wrong once to gain popularity. He left Sang-ah standing there, heartbroken and helpless. Later, Sang-ah went downstairs and met her husband coming upstairs. Although Tae-seop recognized his wife, he decided to ignore her and focus on his plan. Even when Sang-ah called, he didn't answer. Tae-seop quietly broke into Mayor Nam's luxurious room. Tae-seop held his phone ready to record all the evidence. Sure enough, in the bedroom, Tae-seop had filmed Mayor Nam having sex with Jun-sung. Tae-seop calmly walked in and greeted Mayor Nam. Caught red-handed, Mayor Nam was extremely panicked. She cried and begged Tae-seop, then started cursing. But the very next day, Mayor Nam smiled brightly in front of the media cameras. She promised to be a shield protecting children. Because Tae-seop knew his wife was also involved in this matter, he couldn't publicly reveal everything as originally planned. Tae-seop decided to have a frank conversation with Director Lee. Tae-seop would keep this secret, but on the condition that Director Lee release his wife. Director Lee threatened to ruin Tae-seop's career as a prosecutor, but Tae-seop held Director Lee's weakness, so he wasn't afraid. Before he left, Director Lee suddenly mentioned a man about to be released from prison, named Chae-sang. Director Lee also revealed that Chae-sang had been sending love letters to Sang-ah all this time. After that fateful night, the atmosphere between Tae-seop and his wife became very tense. Sang-ah warily explained that she had stayed up all night, dealing with the recent troubles. Tae-seop also clarified that his target was only Mayor Nam, and he had no idea his wife's company was also involved. Sang-ah earnestly begged her husband to stop the investigation. If he stubbornly confronted Director Lee, both of them would suffer terrible revenge from her. At this point, Tae-seop directly asked his wife if she was hiding anything. He specifically pressed her about the name Chae-sang. Although very worried, Sang-ah tried to remain calm. She firmly asserted that there was no way that man had contacted her. Meanwhile, an online journalist is publishing negative articles about Tae-seop and his wife. The journalist claims that behind their glamorous facade lies mutual suspicion. The husband doesn't trust his wife, and she hides many big secrets from him. Even more frightening, their past actually begins with a murder. The only person who ever saw Sang-ah's true nature was murdered. A short while later, Sang-ah goes into the bathroom. She secretly burns the letter Chae-sang sent. At the same time, Tae-seop is also searching through the old case files of this man. The next morning, Tae-seop discovers the ashes in the bathroom. In the trash can, he finds some remaining fragments of the letter. The sender threatens to expose a certain truth truth through audio recordings. Meanwhile, on the film set, Sang-ah is filming a new movie. An accident occurs, injuring her knee. Soon after, a new actress appears to stand in for Sang-ah in the test scenes. Unexpectedly, the stunt actress Hae-ri performed exceptionally well. Even the crew members were surprised by her outstanding acting. In fact, Hae-ri even surpassed the lead actress. In reality, she was someone Tae-sup secretly arranged to monitor Sang-ah's every move. While Sang-ah wasn't paying attention, Hae-ri pretended to accidentally pick up the wrong phone. Then, Hae-ri quickly hacked into Sang-ah's phone. Meanwhile, Sang-ah's assistant suddenly realized that the stunt actress looked exactly like Jisoo, a long-deceased actress. Sang-ah secretly went to a secluded place to call Chae-sang. Chae-sang revealed that someone had contacted him, wanting him to reveal things Sang-ah was trying to keep hidden. Finally, they decided to meet in person to resolve the issue. At the same time, director Lee sent Tae-sup an article. It talks about why the couple are so afraid of each other. It turns out their past began with a murder case. This secret is Tae-sup's biggest weakness. Director Lee makes a deal. If Tae-sup obeys and acts as her henchman, his secret from the past will be kept. If Tae-sup dares to resist, she will publicly reveal the secret to ruin everything he has. Director Lee thought she had Tae-sup under control, but soon after, news reports simultaneously covered Mayor Nam's scandal. Tae-sup was the one who revealed evidence of these illegal transactions. This shocked the entire city and plunged the political world into chaos. Director Lee saw the news and was furious. Before she could calm down, Mayor Nam came to confront her fiercely. Then the two women immediately started fighting. At the same time, the media began to raise serious questions. Why did Tae-sup report his wife's own company's employee? Reporters swarmed Sang-ah on the set. Luckily, Hae-ri cleverly impersonated Sang-ah, allowing her to escape the encirclement. Sang-ah immediately went to find Tae-sup, unable to control her anger. She yelled at him, furious that he had acted without informing her, severely damaging her reputation. At this point, Tae-sup finally revealed the truth. He knew his wife had been secretly contacting Chae-san. Furthermore, director Lee held a secret about the old murder case and was using it to blackmail their entire family. Tae-sup asserted that whether he publicly released Mayor Nam's video or not, director Lee would continue to threaten him with Sang-ah. Declaring war was the only way for Tae-sup to avoid being destroyed by director Lee. However, Sang-ah remained resolute, unwilling to antagonize director Lee, as she longed to regain her former fame. Finally, Sang-ah declared to her husband that if he didn't stop, they would divorce and become enemies. Ultimately, Tae-sup didn't back down. He immediately held an exclusive press conference for Jun-sung. In front of the media cameras, Jun-sung confessed that he was forced to serve Mayor Nam. As planned by Tae-seop, Jun-sung wept profusely. He didn't forget to praise Sang-ah as a good senior for wholeheartedly preventing him from going down the path of crime. After Jun-sung's successful exoneration, the hero of justice, Tae-seop, officially appeared. Tae-seop boldly declared that his reason for exposing Mayor Nam was to break the collusion between the entertainment industry and the political world. Tae-seop wanted to restore integrity to society. But that wasn't all. Tae-seop revealed a detailed list of Mayor Nam's prostitution activities. He also exposed Mayor Nam's use of a fake name for real estate speculation. She then bought a luxury apartment to support male actor. Finally, Tae-seop singled out the head of the prosecutor's office, accusing Chief Prosecutor Chu of covering up Mayor Nam's wrongdoings simply because they were related through marriage. To garner public support, Tae-seop confessed that he also feared his wife would be implicated. Despite being the son of a poor fishmonger, he was willing to sacrifice everything for the honor of a Korean prosecutor. After Tae-seop exposed the high-ranking official scandal, he suddenly became an idol. He was nicknamed the Silent Hero and the Star of Justice. Meanwhile, a petition demanding Mayor Nam's resignation emerged, quickly garnering tens of thousands of signatures. Director Lee was going crazy. Cornered. Knowing she couldn't do anything to Tae-seop at this moment, she shifted her target to Sang-ah. Director Lee declared she would turn Sang-ah into a tool for torment. Director Lee wanted Tae-seop to witness firsthand the destruction of the person he loved most. Soon after, Tae-seop received news that Chae-sang would be released from prison early Monday morning. Even more noteworthy, Ji-ho, a professional online journalist, frequently visited the prison to see Chae-sang. That evening, Ji-ho met with director Lee. Ji-ho reported that Chae-sang had agreed to cooperate. Director Lee, Tae-seop was sitting at the same table with powerful figures. Dong-wook introduced Tae-seop to the others, hoping they would support him in the upcoming election. They all shared the same goal, to overthrow director Lee. As everyone was enjoying themselves, an official entered and shook hands with Tae-seop. Director Lee followed him. Her appearance soured the atmosphere of the dinner. Everyone thought the meal couldn't continue, but Dong Uk suddenly spoke up, saying they could make an exception and sit at the same table together. Meanwhile, Sana was trying to get Chairman Kwan to stand up and protect her. She coldly pulled out a cigarette, then said that Chae Sang was about to be released from prison. At the same time, Chae Sang was in possession of a copy of the Wang Chae case file, which included the name of Director Kwan. When Director Lee sat down at the table, she was immediately mocked by her husband's stepson. Afterwards, everyone happily poured drinks and chatted with Tae-seop. Director Lee was quite surprised to know that Tae-seop was secretly involved in politics. Because the conversation among these men was bland and artificial, Director Lee kicked Tae-seop outside to talk. Director Lee threatened that artists and politicians had one thing in common: they were both easily ruined by public opinion. She knew exactly how to ruin someone's reputation. Director Lee asserted that sooner or later, Tae-seop would pay the price for daring to oppose her. Because Tae-seop remained defiant, Director Lee resorted to physical contact. She revealed a secret: the tax evasion scandal, the case that cost Tae-seop's wife her career, was caused by Director Lee. Because Sang-ah dared to rely on Chairman Kwan and act arrogantly, Director Lee decided to teach Sang-ah a lesson. Before leaving, Director Lee also said she was preparing a big plan related to Wang Chae's case. Tae-seop immediately told Sang-ah that she had nothing to do with it. He warned Director Lee not to do anything dirty. Director Lee smirked, saying that he still didn't know his wife's true nature. Sana was also trying to resolve the issue, so she sought out the chairman of Gaia Group. No matter how much Sana tried to persuade him, Chairman Kwan remained unconcerned. He said he was past the stage of worrying over a piece of paper. He advised Sana to reconsider her husband. How much trust did she have in Tae-seop? Tae-seop had overheard the entire conversation. He gazed thoughtfully at his wife lying in bed. They were both consumed by mutual suspicion. Ji-ho was Director Lee's assistant. He was making a series of videos to post online, primarily exposing shocking truths about the entertainment industry. In 2018, a shocking assassination occurred, and the victim was Wang Chae. Ji-ho hypothesized that Sana had hired Chae-san to assassinate Wang Chae. So what was Sana's relationship with the victim? Wang Chae was a Korean film mogul at the time, and he was also the one who had propelled Sana to fame. After Wang Chae joined the Gaia Group, he was brutally murdered, and the suspect arrested was Chae Sang. At the time, all Koreans were extremely surprised. Because Chae Sang was a timid person, he absolutely did not have the courage to kill someone. However, after some time, all news related to Wang Chae's case was erased. No one could find the case anymore. Ji-ho suspected something was amiss. To uncover the truth, Ji-ho personally visited Chae Sang in prison. Chae Sang confessed everything. The case began after the death of an actress named Ji-soo. After Ji-soo's death, Sana became deranged and lost control. That's why Wang Chae hired Chae Sang as a bodyguard to protect Sana. Chae Sang promised to reveal the whole truth upon his release. Ji-ho promised that Chae Sang would be a guest in the next video. He would reveal the dark truth that Sang-ah had been trying to hide. Ji-ho's every move was suspicious, so Hae-ri and her accomplices began to monitor him. At the office, Director Lee was exercising. Just then, Ji-ho arrived to report Chae Sang's release. Director Lee scolded Ji-ho for making the video too long. She gave him a small but valuable gift, which would motivate him to work harder. Although Director Lee didn't trust Ji-ho much, she fully expected him to work effectively. Harry, who was Molly, outside, overheard the entire conversation. She signaled her accomplices to hack into Ji-ho's car's computer system. To buy time, Harry pretended to be carrying a water bottle. Then she deliberately bumped into Ji-ho and spilled water, soaking his shirt. As soon as Harry received the signal that the hack was successful, she immediately changed her attitude. She warned Ji-ho to be careful, or he might face revenge. Ji-ho, suddenly being scolded, felt extremely angry, but he couldn't do anything. After Harry completed her task, she immediately reported the situation to Tae-seop. Then she continued to pursue her target. Meanwhile, Tae-seop was thinking about his wife, but he was unexpectedly summoned to an urgent meeting. In the meeting room, the powerful figures at the prosecutor's office wanted to suspend Tae-seop for daring to expose Mayor Nam's scandal without his permission. Before they could gloat, Tae-seop kicked open the door and stormed in. He loudly criticized them to their faces. Tae-seop threw his resignation letter in his former boss's face, then left dramatically. Just then, Tae-seop received news that Mayor Nam had held a press conference conference announcing his resignation. He saw the reporters waiting outside. Tae-sup threw his employee ID card into the trash can. He boldly declared that he was forced to leave because he had exposed corruption within the SMER organization. From today, he was no longer a prosecutor. But right here, Tae-sup wanted to announce a new beginning. He would participate in the general election as the first recruited candidate of the Creative Party. While Tae-sup was being hailed as a hero, Sang-ah was surrounded by reporters because of the recent controversies. She faced the prospect of having her contract terminated. Sang-ah had no other choice. She accepted the contract termination compensation, but she hoped they would still reserve a role for her in that film. While things were in turmoil, Chae-sang called, extremely agitated. Chae-sang reminded her of a promise Sang-ah had made before, that if Chae-sang pleaded guilty and was released from prison, Sang-ah would divorce Tae-sup and be with Chae-sang. But Chae-sang didn't know what Sang-ah was planning now. Tae-sup had overheard the entire conversation. To solidify his reputation with the public, Tae-sup agreed to an interview on the news. That evening, Ji-ho met Chae-sang at a cafe. When Ji-ho asked about the crucial evidence, Chae-sang said that if he revealed the whole truth, Sang-ah would be negatively affected. Because Sang-ah was his first love, he still couldn't bear to hurt her. Ji-ho immediately used psychological manipulation. He promised to make Sang-ah obediently return to Chae-sang's side. Thanks to this, Ji-ho successfully obtained the audio recording from Chae-sang. After receiving the evidence, Ji-ho immediately copied the data to his computer. However, Ji-ho's computer had been hacked by Hae-ri, so Hae-ri also heard the entire recording. Inside the recording was Sang-ah's voice crying and begging Chae-sang to do something for her. In return, she promised to give herself to him. Ji-ho immediately drafted an article. He prepared to post the truth online. The murderer in the Wang Chae case is Sang-ah, but at that moment, Tae-sup suddenly appeared. He snatched the recording, then furiously smashed Ji-ho's computer. Tae-sup also beat Chae-sang up. At this point, Hae-ri also stood up. She kicked Ji-ho, then took the smashed computer from the floor and left. Meanwhile, Tae-sup dragged Chae-sang into the bathroom to warn him. Tae-sup declared that he used to be a prosecutor, so if Chae-sang released the recording, Chae-sang would be imprisoned until he died. Clearly, Tae-sup had known Sang-ah was the culprit for a long time, but he still covered for her and deliberately tried to send Chae-sang to prison. Chae-sang went berserk. He swore revenge on Tae-sup and his wife. Meanwhile, Hae-ri took the computer back. She took out the hard drive and opened it. Inside were all the evidence and statements that Ji-ho had collected. The actress Jisoo was mentioned in it. Jisoo is believed to be the origin of the murder case from that year. Going back 7 years on a film set, Jisoo was filming a sensitive scene with her co-star. Due to psychological trauma, she resisted and ran off to vomit. A short while later, director Wang Chae arrived. Upon hearing the news, he immediately went to find Jisoo. Wang Chae called out repeatedly, but Jisoo wouldn't open the door, so he kicked it open and stormed in. Jisoo asked why she hadn't been informed about the sensitive brook scene beforehand. Wang Chae knew Jisoo had to take medication to stabilize her mental state, but Wang Chae didn't care. He thought viewers would enjoy such scenes. He did everything for money. Jisoo refused to continue filming. Wang Chae then threatened her with contract termination fees. Jisoo said she would sue him, but he only looked up at her coldly. Afterward, Wang Chae dragged Jisoo outside and forced her to film the scene. Despite Jisoo's crying and fear, Wang Chae remained unfazed. At this point, Sang-ah arrived. She argued with Wang Chae, telling him to stop his dirty tricks. After speaking, Sang-ah announced that Jisoo would withdraw from the project and would pay her compensation. She then helped the actress off the set, advising Jisoo to stay for a while and promising to handle Wang Chae's situation. Jisoo was terrified, fearing that opposing Wang Chae would ruin her career. Sang-ah held Jisoo's hand to comfort her, but ultimately, Jisoo chose to continue filming. Sang-ah could only offer words of comfort. However, this wasn't just a simple sisterly bond. It turned out that Sang-ah was a lesbian at the time, which is why she avoided any scandals involving men. Chae-sang recounted that during that period, no one dared to oppose Wang Chae. Sang-ah wanted to fight against Wang Chae, which is why she gradually lost control. After Jisoo's death, Sang-ah also paused her acting career for a while. Everything started on that fateful night. That day, Jisoo went to Wang Chae's house. When Jisoo entered, she immediately felt uneasy. There were no actors there, only a pink bed. Before Jisoo could escape, Wang Chae dragged her inside. The director and the chairman of Gaia Group were also there. Jisoo tried to escape, but she was quickly caught by Wang Chae, and she became their victim. It turned out that Tae-sup was also present that night. At that time, he was a newly hired prosecutor to curry favor with the director. Tae-sup worked as his driver. While Tae-sup was waiting in the car, the director called and asked Tae-sup to bring him a pack of cigarettes. When Tae-sup brought the cigarettes inside, he saw Jisoo running out in a panic. Tae-sup was an upright man. He immediately immediately subdued the person chasing her. However, Jisoo still couldn't escape. She was still captured and taken back to that room. When Tae-seop went in to deliver something to the director, he saw Jisoo sitting there. Only then did Tae-seop understand what was happening. But immediately afterward, Tae-seop was politely escorted out. Although Jisoo looked at Tae-seop with pleading eyes, Tae-seop's career path was still very difficult at that time, so he couldn't help her. As Tae-seop walked out of the building, he looked back at that hellish place one last time. The next day, news of Jisoo's death broke. Sang-ah couldn't bear the shock and fainted in front of the reporter's lights. When Sang-ah woke up, she could only cry in utter despair. Sang-ah reread the hopeful messages she had exchanged with Jisoo. Their love was like a wound. It will forever be etched in Sang-ah's mind. Just as she was sinking into despair, a knock sounded at the door. It was Chae-sang. Wang Chae had ordered Chae-sang to be Sang-ah's bodyguard, but in reality, Chae-sang was monitoring her. Wang Chae wanted to prevent Sang-ah from revealing that Jisoo's death was connected to him. Despite Sang-ah's refusal, Chae-sang forced her to attend Jisoo's funeral. Tae-seop was also present and witnessed this. A short while later, director Wang Chae appeared. He shamelessly feigned grief in front of everyone. But as soon as he sat down in front of Sang-ah, she lost her composure. Sang-ah screamed directly at Wang Chae, accusing him of killing Jisoo. Her anguished screams caused him to panic. Sang-ah completely lost control, smashing things around her. Fortunately, Tae-seop intervened in time, preventing Sang-ah from making a bigger mistake. Before leaving, Sang-ah slapped Wang Chae hard. Tae-seop watched Sang-ah's unsteady steps, lost in thought. That night, Tae-seop studied all the information. He discovered the close relationship between Wang Chae and Chairman Kwon. After Jisoo's death, Sang-ah was so desperate that she went on a hunger strike. She constantly confined herself to her dark room. Then, Sang-ah accidentally discovered that Wang Chae had not only sent Sang to monitor her, but had also secretly placed hidden cameras throughout the house to control her. Sang-ah immediately became enraged. She ransacked the house searching for cameras, then smashed them to pieces. Trembling, Sang-ah called the police. However, on the other end of the line, she heard Wang Chae's triumphant laughter. It turned out that Wang Chae had also secretly given Sang-ah illegal substances to poison her mind. Sang-ah's patience had reached its limit. The following night, Sang-ah secretly sneaked out. She carried a sharp knife and rushed straight into Wang Chae's room. Sang-ah frantically stabbed Wang Chae several times in quick succession. Wang Chae bled profusely and collapsed to the floor. While Sang-ah was bewildered, not knowing how to dispose of the body, there was a frantic knocking at the door. It seemed as though everything was a harsh truth, but it turned out to be just Harry's speculation, based on her observation of Sang-ah's acting. According to Chae-sang's account, there was another hidden secret. Sang-ah had almost died before, but Jiho didn't want to hear this. The truth gradually unfolded. It turned out that Chae-sang had also been present at the scene that night. It's unclear whether Chae-sang was the one who committed the murder, or if he was merely there to take the blame for Sang-ah, because before Wang Chae took his last breath, he managed to grab Chae-sang's leg. While Chae-sang was in a panic, there was, suddenly, a knock at the door. But Chae-sang didn't know who knocked on the door. The next day, Tae-seop arrived at the scene to investigate the case. All the evidence at the scene pointed to Chae-sang, so he was immediately taken to the police station for questioning. No matter how the police questioned him, Chae-sang insisted that he had followed Sang-ah's orders to go there to deal with Wang Chae. But when Chae-sang arrived, Wang Chae had already been murdered. The suspect refused to confess, so Tae-seop shifted his focus to Sang-ah. She admitted that Wang Chae deserved to die, but she denied instigating anyone to do it. Tae-seop returned to questioning Chae-sang. Tae-seop asked what money or benefits Sang-ah had given Chae-sang that made him willing to kill for her. But at that time, Chae-sang didn't reveal anything. Ultimately, who was telling the truth? Tae-seop was completely at a loss. Back in the present, Chae-sang had told Jiho the truth. It turned out that Sang-ah had taken pills at that time, intending to end her own life. Luckily, Chae-sang arrived just in time to stop Sang-ah. She was desperate because she was being controlled by Wang Chae, and only one of them could survive. Chae-sang had feelings for Sang-ah, so he was heartbroken to see her like that. Chae-sang promised to protect Sang-ah at all costs. Sang-ah knew this fool had fallen into a love trap. She began to express her feelings, subtly hinting at how much better it would be if Wang Chae disappeared from her life. Through her pleading eyes, Sang-ah planted a weighty promise in Chaesang's heart. If Chaesang could fulfill that promise, Sang-ah would willingly become his woman. Unexpectedly, the conversation was secretly recorded by a hidden recording device. It was something Wang Che had placed to monitor Sang-ah, which is why Chaesang had the recording. However, because love had blinded his reason, Chaesang hid this evidence. Because Chaesang only wanted to protect Sang-ah to the very end. But sometime later, Chaesang received bad news. The woman he had been waiting for had officially married Tae-seop. At that moment, Chaesang's intention to protect Sang-ah was shaken. Tae-seop heard the shocking recording. He went berserk and sped straight home. Tae-seop violently kicked open the bathroom door and unleashed a torrent of harsh accusations. He had heard all the secrets on the recording. Tae-seop blamed his wife for not telling him about the recording. He said he had destroyed the recording the day before. But Chaesang surely still had another copy. Tae-seop worried that if it came out, they wouldn't have peace, and their dreams would be shattered. Tae-seop asked why Sang-ah did it, saying she didn't need to go to such lengths. Sang-ah screamed back that if she hadn't done it, Jisoo would never have been able to rest in peace. Sang-ah asserted that if Wang Che didn't die, she would be the one to die. Tae-seop told Sang-ah that she didn't need to do that, as Wang Che would have died anyway. Sang-ah didn't understand what Tae-seop was saying. Going back 7 years, Tae-seop had been secretly investigating the underground forces. He also looked into the criminal networks related to Jisoo's case. From there, he discovered a name, Kang Sung. Kang Sung was an assassin for the Gaia group. Kang Sung's fingerprints were found on the windowsill of the room where Wang Che was murdered. Tae-seop immediately formulated a hypothesis. Wang Che had blackmailed Chairman Kwon, so he ordered the assassin to eliminate Wang Che. Tae-seop immediately went to Kang Sung's house, sneaking in and ransacking the house for evidence. He then discovered a secret box containing cash and a notebook. Inside was information about the date and time Wang Che would enter the hotel room. Tae-seop immediately took a picture with his phone. Then he used specialized equipment to collect fingerprints from the box. The forensic results were a devastating blow to justice. The truth was exactly as Tae-seop had suspected. Chairman Kwon had instructed his secretary to have Kang Sung deal with Wang Che. The next day, Tae-seop was summoned by the director. The director wanted Tae-seop to remain silent. Tae-seop was not to tell anyone that he had seen Jisoo in the room the night before. Tae-seop immediately said he didn't remember anything, didn't hear anything, and didn't see anything. The director was very pleased to see Tae-seop being so cooperative. Then, he threw a script onto the table. It would be published in the newspaper the next day. It announced that the perpetrator of Wang Che's case was Chae-sang. The director asked if Tae-seop also wanted to become the captain of the special investigation team. Now, Tae-seop was facing two choices. On one hand, there is the pursuit of justice. On the other hand, there is the decision to stop and embrace glory and wealth. Tae-seop is in an extreme psychological struggle because he now knows the whole truth. It turns out that day, after Chae-sang stabbed the other man, Wang Che was still clinging to Chae-sang's leg, barely alive. At that moment, someone knocked on the door. Chae-sang, terrified, immediately opened the window and escaped. The person who knocked and killed Wang Che was Kang Sung. Chairman Kwon himself had instructed his secretary to hire Kang Sung. Ultimately, driven by his ambition to climb to the top, Tae-seop chose to falsify the criminal record to manipulate public opinion. Then, Tae-seop sought out Sang-ah with the intention of helping her unconditionally. Because Tae-seop realized that Sang-ah had one thing in common with him. They were both people who would do anything to get ahead. Instead of confessing his love with flowers or extravagant gifts, Tae-seop used the evidence of instigating the murder as a marriage proposal. Now Tae-seop is just a pawn in the world of the Fall tycoons. But if Tae-seop had the support of an ambitious woman like Sang-ah, he would easily reach the pinnacle of power. Tae-seop promised to protect Sang-ah in all circumstances. And the most shocking marriage proposal was, he asked her to become his accomplice. Sang-ah had no choice but to agree to become Tae-seop's wife. After that, Tae-seop buried the whole truth, blaming everything on Chae-sang. Because Chae-sang feared his mother would be harmed, he reluctantly went to court and confessed. Returning to the present, Sang-ah immediately became furious, because back then, Tae-seop knew perfectly well that Chairman Kwon was the real culprit, but he kept it a secret. Tae-seop then said he was only temporarily hiding the evidence to wait for the right opportunity. At that time, he would release the evidence to overthrow the Gaia group. Sang-ah angrily cursed Tae-seop, saying he was no different from them. If only he had told the truth back then, she wouldn't have married him. Sang-ah angrily hit Tae-seop. For years, she had lived in torment, sleepless nights. She felt guilty, thinking that she was the one who had turned Chae-sang into a murderer. From beginning to end, Tae-seop had only used his wife's fame to carry out his evil plan. Sang-ah was disappointed, helpless, and disgusted with herself. She couldn't bear the shock. She threw on her bathrobe and drove off. Sang-ah almost hit a construction worker. She got out of the car with trembling bare feet. She immediately saw her billboards. But those billboards weren't praising Sang-ah. Instead, they accused her of killing Wang Che. Just as Sang-ah was about to give up in despair, a hand unexpectedly reached out from behind and touched her. Sang-ah turned around. She realized the person touching her was Harry, her stunt double. Harry looked at Sang-ah and unconsciously recalled her not-so-pleasant childhood memories. Perhaps her time in prison had eroded Harry's character, causing her to gradually slide down the wrong path.